I welcome you all, participants, students, faculty members from different institutes for this webinar series, which is arranged on the occasion of World Environment Day. As our institute is celebrating this World Environment Day by organizing the guest lectures of three eminent scientists, eminent veterinarian working in different organizations. So I request our colleague Dr. Deshpande sir to introduce
respected Associate Dean sir and today's guest Dr. Shahaji Sambhaji Fund, whose topic is very important and very pertinent to this World Environment Day, and its topic is climate resilient livestock farming to ensure food and nutritional security. So as far as Dr. Shahaji Fund is concerned, he is eminent person. He is in his field of veterinary extension. He is presently working as assistant director at Manage, Hyderabad. His brief resume I will tell to all the participants that he graduated from MAPSU Nagpur in 2002 and as BVSc and H. Then he completed his PG and PhD in 2005 and 2008 from IVRI, Department of Veterinary Extension. Then he worked as assistant professor from 2008 to 2012 at Riva Veterinary College. Afterwards, he was promoted as associate professor at the same college, and from 2016, he is working as assistant director at Manage. I am very happy to tell you all participants that Dr. Fund has generated 4 technologies. Out of these, 2 technologies have been patented in his name. Apart from this, he is recipient of distinguished Dr. C.M. Singh Award for Best PhD Research, as well as he is recipient of 2 awards of Best Research Paper for his MVSc and PhD research. Dr. Fund has 27 books and publication in his credit, and he is editor, reviewer, as well as expert for various international and national journals. So this is about brief biodata of today's distinguished speaker. Now I will hand over the session to our chairman and organizer, Dr. Aher sir, for further briefing.
Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I wish you happy World Environment Day. So we have organized this web series on this occasion to celebrate World Environment Day. As we all know, veterinarians have pivotal role in the maintenance of ecosystem, environment, biodiversity. That's why this is an important topic. Today we have a guest, Dr. Shahaji Fund from Manage, Hyderabad, and the climate change and its effect on livestock production or impact on productivity. This is the subject. All of you know the climate change is a very important topic because there are so many reasons why there is change, and this change, no doubt climate changes, but the change is very drastic since last 30-40 years after industrialization era decade. There is increase in pollution and climate change. It has drastically increased from 1980 onwards. So at the early this 20th century, there is increase in surface temperature of Earth by 0.8 degrees centigrade, and this surface temperature increase is 2/3 of it is after 1980. So within the span of last 40 years, and we expect, or the data says, there may be rise in temperature of Earth's surface from 1.4 degrees centigrade to 5.8 degrees centigrade by the end of this century. So that's why it gives importance regarding this topic, and there should be need to control the pollution, and climate should be healthy, and there is a major role of veterinarian in this. this change is, that's why you see there are so many disasters coming out of this change, and this frequency is more. So earlier disaster is to come after 30-40 years. Now the frequency increase. Just now MPEL, before that hurricane. Likewise, there are so many disasters, calamities we are facing because of this change, climate change, global warming. So I hope you will enjoy the webinar. I request you as well as attend the semi-webinars we have organized today, tomorrow, day after tomorrow. So hope you will enjoy this webinar. Thank you.
So today we will see that climate resilient livestock farming to ensure food and nutritional security. In fact, I hope most of you might be knowing about the Manage. Manage is a National Institute of Agricultural Extension Management, an autonomous organization directly working under the Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare. And here we are working in 9 centers. That means Manage have the 9 centers, just like any department, that means in veterinary college. So I'm in Center for Extension in Agri-Allied Sector. But in Manage, we have one more center, that is Climate Change and Adaptations, where we are talking about all this climate change and how it is affecting to the agriculture and allied sector. So particularly whenever it comes to the livestock or allied sector, maybe fisheries, agriculture or horticulture, our center is dealing with this climate change in allied sector. So today we'll see that how we can practice this climate resilient livestock farming and how it is for food and nutritional security. So my total presentation will be of 30 minutes. Preferably I will try to complete in 30 minutes. So in this presentation, first we'll see that the general scenario of livestock, particularly the statistical part, how much population, how it is contributing to the you can say livelihood, or we can say employment. Then we will see that what is the what we can say the climate change. Climate change, everybody knows the climate change, but what exactly, what are the different factors that is affecting the climate change? And particularly whenever we talk about the livestock sector, most of the time you might have heard about that livestock sector itself is a very powerful causative agent or causative, we can say, factor that contribute this climate change. So whether livestock sector is a cause or sufferer or both, how it is contributing to the climate change, and vice versa, the changed climate, how it is contributing, how it is impacting, affecting on the livestock production, that we will see. And finally, what are the different adaptation and mitigation measures for this climate change in view of this livestock production. My voice is audible? My voice is audible? Yeah, please, anybody can give response so I can continue.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. Kuldeep. Hello? Dr. Kuldeep.
Hello, sir. Hello, sir.
Yeah,
Your
Dr.
voice
Mankar.
is
Yeah,
Girish.
yeah,
Your voice
Girish.
is quite audible. Your voice is quite audible. You go ahead.
Oh, okay, okay. Please actually let me know if is there any disturbance, if my voice is not audible. Please let me know. So we'll start with this general information about the livestock sector. All of we know that the livestock sector is one of the largest, that Indian livestock sector, you can say, is one of the largest in the world. And very recent livestock census, if we see, nearly we have a 535 millions of these cattle or livestock here, not a cattle. Moreover, if we see the livestock resources in India, we are again, we must say that we are the country which is really blessed with these livestock resources. and nearly 43 indigenous cattle breeds, 16 buffalo, 34 goats breed, and nearly 43 sheep breeds we having. So if we see the total milk production of the last year, nearly our milk production is growing 6.5% and reached about 187 million tons. And thereby the per capita availability of milk is increased, or we can say reached up to 394 gram, which is far, far more than what the recommended level of ICMR, that is 280 gram per day per person. If we see the total meat production, here also nearly this particular meat sector is growing 6% annually and reached to almost 8.11 million tons, where the poultry sector is contributing nearly 50% in this meat production. Similarly, the egg production that is reached to 103 billions, and likewise if we see the wool production, and again moreover the employment, nearly more than we can say 16 million workers that are engaged by this livestock sector in India. And if we see this particular scenario in the world, nearly 1 billion people, people's livelihood is dependent on this livestock, and more than 1.1 billion people are employed in this livestock sector. As far as the nutritional aspect or food security is concerned, worldwide, if you see the scenario, nearly 70% of the global kilocalorie consumption and 33% of the global protein consumption is coming from this livestock sector. So this is very shortly the scenario of livestock sector. Now we'll come to the climate change. So most of the time we are using the word weather or climate. So what is exactly weather and climate? Why actually I'm giving this basic information? The very purpose of this today's webinar, that everyone should understand at least a brief scenario of this climate change, the perspective of the livestock sector. So very briefly, I'm introducing this concept of climate change. What are the factors and what are the evidences that we are now observing? So that that is just because of this climate change. So weather or climate, if we see the weather, whenever we talk about the weather, generally we talk about it is a short term. That is a duration is matter. If we talk about the weather, then we are whenever we talk about the weather, then we are talking about the limited area, the climate or environment, whatever that is the situation, whatever we are talking about for that limited area. Then this weather can change rapidly, and also the weather is difficult to predict. In contrast, if we see the climate, we talk about the climate when we that is in when long term, if we see, then it is called as a climate. Or the area also, when it is not limited to the certain area, rather whenever we talk about the climate change, we consider the wide area and also the seasonal changes, and climate change can be predicted over a long period. So this is a we can say a simple difference between weather and climate. Yes, I'm getting some notification. Yeah, my voice is clear. My voice is clear.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes,
Yes,
go
sir.
ahead.
Okay, thank you, thank you. So if we see the factor affecting climate, so there are two mainly factors: abiotic factors and biotic factors. In abiotic factor, we can enlist that latitude, altitude, ocean currents, topography, solar radiations, evaporation, orbital variation, and volcanic activity. These all come under the abiotic factor, which contributing to climate change. And similarly, the biotic factors, that is transpiration, respiration, photosynthesis, decomposition, and digestion. So biotic factors particularly we can control, and whatever the climate change or the mitigation measure or adaptation measures are they are in process, they are related to this biotic factor. If we again, yeah, yeah. Whenever we talk about the climate change, mainly this greenhouse gases, this is a buzzword. These greenhouse gases, particularly whenever we are talking about, then the carbon dioxide, that is nearly 65% it is contributing to the climate change, and it is one of the major greenhouse gas that is just, hello, ma'am, I'm actually conducting one webinar. Yeah, I will talk to you later. Yeah, sorry for disturbance. So I was talking about the greenhouse gases. There is carbon dioxide that is nearly contributing 65%, and followed by this methane 16%, and again we can say the nitrous oxide. If we see the shelf life, it is very clearly visible that the carbon dioxide shelf life is nearly 120 years, the nitrous oxide about 114 years, and the methane life is 10 to 12 years. If we see the contribution of different sectors to this climate change, or we can say the greenhouse gases, then the energy supply, that is contributing nearly 26% to this climate change, followed by the industry and forestry. Agriculture in total, if we see, it is contributing 13.5%. But the scenario, if we see, I mean, the impact of this climate change. What is the impact? As early Iyer sir told that the global average surface temperature is increasing, and it is predicted that it will increase by 1 to 2.5 degrees Celsius in next 10 years. And because of that, billions of people, particularly those are living in developing countries, will be affected, and there will be a risk of land degradation and biodiversity loss. So this reduction in one of the impact of climate change is that reduction in length of growing season, and thereby crop and livestock is affected. Nowadays we are saying that there is a vagaries of monsoon. There is a very long dry spell in between the in monsoon season. So this growing season is affecting, and again there is increased risk of food shortage and insecurity, and also this pest and diseases. Yeah. So what are the different evidences that we are seeing as an effect of this climate change? First, this is a well-known example that how climate is affecting to particularly our Earth. Here, if we see the left side, that Agassiz Glacier of Montana in 1913, the scenario was like that. And after almost in 2005, it is very much easily visible that the ice cover is now depleting slowly and slowly. And similarly, the same situation that you will see in Austria also, the picture in 1875 and also the picture in 2004. Here, how it is affecting the animal and plant particularly. It has been seen that almost 2/3 of the European butterfly species studied, which have shifted their ranges northward as much as 150 miles. Similarly, one analysis shows that the British bird found that many species have moved north by an average 8.9 kilometers. So this migration, or we can say the shifting of their movement range, it is one of the sign of climate change. Moreover, at Boston, it has been observed that there is the flowering season is that season is particularly shortened in that species over the duration of we can say since 1900 to 1920. That means almost in 20 years there is a shortening of the duration of the flowering season. Now it is more interesting to look on this livestock particularly. What are the evidences we are seeing in the livestock sector particularly? Here, it is predicted that if there is an increase of 2 to 3 degrees Celsius temperature about the pre-industrial era or level, we can say pollution level, then 20 to 30% of the biodiversity will be lost. This is one report in 2014. Then it is also predicted that climate change may eliminate 15 to 37% of all species in the world. And it has been observed up to 2000, nearly 16% of these livestock breeds were lost. That means nearly almost there is one report of the Food and Agriculture Organization that out of 7,616 livestock breed reported, nearly 20% is at risk just because of this climate change. That means almost one breed per month we are losing. It is a really shocking information or shocking, we can say, scenario of the livestock sector. And amongst the species, the cattle having a highest number of extinct breed. And if we see the risk percentage of different breed, then nearly 33% that chicken breeds having chances of elimination because of this climate change. And similarly, the 18% of pig breed and nearly 16% of the cattle breed, they're having the risk, they are in the risk zone because of this climate change. Now coming to the second point, that is livestock sector, whether it is a positive factor or whether it is a sufferer. In fact, it is a both, we can say, because in livestock production system, definitely it is vulnerable to the climate change, but livestock sector also contributing to the climate change. Nearly 14.5% of total greenhouse gases is emitted by this livestock sector, in which the methane, nitrous oxide and carbon dioxide are the major gases. Methane comes from enteric fermentation and animal manure. Similarly, the nitrous oxide from animal manure, and carbon dioxide again the land use pattern for particularly the feed and fodder growing. Then if we see the global emission from livestock production, there is one report in 2013, it is reported by Gerber. Nearly 27% carbon dioxide is emitted by livestock sector globally, and 44% methane and 29% of nitrous oxide. Similarly, if we see the sources, you can see that means easily the enteric fermentation, that is methane, nearly 39% that greenhouse gases is being contributed by the enteric fermentation, followed by the manure, and followed by this feed production or land use pattern, we can say. Shall I go ahead? Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
If we
Yes,
see
sir.
the species-wise estimate of emissions of these CHGs, then beef cattle, they are the most contributor for these greenhouse gases, followed by the dairy cattle and pig and buffalo. Again, if we see the Indian scenario, then that means methane emission per animal per year. Then Western cattle, particularly this crossbreed and exotic breeds, nearly 120 kgs of methane per year is, we can say, released by or emitted by this Western cattle or exotic breed, followed by the non-Western cattle or indigenous cattle, what we can say. So in that way, nearly there is a difference of 50% difference. We can easily observe that. Then, in Indian scenario, if you see the crossbreed cattle, so nearly 50% of the total emission is coming from this crossbreed cattle, followed by the nearly 50% we can again this indigenous cattle and buffalo. And Indian cattle, on an average, we can say a 35 kg methane is being released or is being emitted per year by the Indian cattle. And here we can say again clearly, in Europe, almost 95 kg methane per year is being emitted by these exotic breed, or we can say the western breed. Then if we see the methane emission for lactating animals, it comes about nearly 53.6 gram per kg of milk that methane is released by these dairy animals. Then again, if we see the scenario, the left map are showing that the population of the livestock, the state-wise population of the livestock, or you can say the density of the population, and right, and right you will see that the top three leading state, we can say they are contributing to the methane production, or you can say CHS production, that is Uttar Pradesh, Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh. Now we'll see the impact of climate change on livestock production. It is obvious that the increased temperature that will increase the uncomfort days from present 40 days to 89 days. So whenever there is an increase in uncomfort days, the animal will be suffer. And the climatic factor, or we can say the seasonal changes, they are mainly influence the behavior of animal due to neuroendocrine response to the climate element, and that is resulting into the reduction in the production. Then if we categorize the impact of climate change on livestock production, we can categorize into two, that is direct effect and indirect effect. The direct effect will be on the feed intake, livestock milk production, livestock reproduction, disease occurrence, and indirect effect will be on the feed resources and also the abundance, or you can say the distribution of the competitors and predators and parasites. So we'll see one by one that how feed intake, how livestock milk production, how we can the livestock reproduction and the diseases it is affecting. If we see the feed intake, in general, if this climate change, or we can say the heat stress, that will lead to the increase in the body temperature, and that ultimately result into the poor appetite. And again, this poor appetite will lead to the poor growth performance. Then the heat stress also decrease the roughage intake, and if the roughage intakes will be decreased, then there will be decrease in volatile fatty acid production, and finally resulting into the decreased production. Similarly, if the rumen pH is decreased, that will lead to the acidosis, and that is one of the you can say uncomfort condition for the animal. Then how it will affect on milk production particularly. Any, we can say that will change, drastic change in the climate, maybe you can say the sudden heat, or you can say sudden cold or fall in temperature. These both factors will cause the decline in the milk production. Then heat stress also having a negative effect on secretory function of the udder, which leads to the decrease in milk production. It is estimated that just because of this climate change, nearly 1.6 million ton milk we are losing because of this climate change as on today. And it is again estimated or predicted that nearly 15 million tons of milk will lose because of this climate change in coming 30 years. So presently an annual loss of nearly 1.8%, 1.8 million tons, that is nearly 2% of the total milk production we are losing just because of this climate change. So this is how you can say that there are different, that means even it is not only the quantity of the milk, but if we see the quality also, there will be change in the milk fat, there will be change in the solid not fat, and even there is change in the milk protein. That means the qualitative changes will be there because of this climate change. Then there is one findings that how this climate change is affecting to the milk production. one data that means I found that there is a 15% milk reduction and 35% decrease in the energy utilization when an Holstein Friesian cow that is shifted from a temperature from 18 degrees Celsius to 13 degrees Celsius. So this is a sudden impact of the heat stress on the milk production. Now we'll see that the how the climate change is affecting the reproduction. Without reproduction, we can't expect the production. So reproduction is very much important in dairy animals, not only dairy animals, in all livestock particularly. And this climate change, this both male and female, both are vulnerable to the climate change, and particularly it's affect the animals that the time to attain the puberty of crossbred and buffalo will increase because of this climate change, and it is predicted that nearly there will be a difference of 1 to 2 weeks that it will bring that much difference. Then the climate change will be more pronounced in the buffalo rather than the other animal, because buffalo is a thermal sensitive animal. And what kind of exactly the climate change will affect on the male reproduction and female reproduction? Here we have some observations through different research. There is an inverse correlation between environmental temperature and sperm concentration. If the temperature increases, the sperm concentrations will be decreased and vice versa. So again, it leads to the that means decreased survivability of the spermatozoa, then increase the abnormality and that means abnormal morphology in the sperm, and similarly we can see that there is a reduction in testosterone level that will leads to decreased libido. In female reproduction particularly, the gonadal activity will be altered and the reproductive rhythm will be loosed. So even any kind of stress that will increase the cortisol level and the cortisol level that ultimately restrict, or you can say there is a reduction in sexual behavior in female, and ultimately the problem of silent rate will be more in this changing climate, or you can say because of the heat stress. And similarly you can see that how it is affecting the that means embryonic losses, fetal growth, and the other parameter, even the estrus and conception rate. So this is in a nutshell the impact of this climate change or effect of this climate change on the reproductive function of the animals. Now we'll see that how the disease occurrence, that means what will happen with this disease occurrence. Here, particularly the disease, it is predicted that there will be a change in that means the pathogen pattern effect, how it will affect on the pathogen, how it will affect on the vector, how it will affect on the host. So there is one research finding that there will be an increased rate of certain pathogen and parasites because of this climate change. Then if we see the effect on vector, then the hot humid weather condition that will aggravate the infestation of the vector, and similarly on host there will be shifting of disease distribution and outbreak of the severe diseases, and that means severe disease which we have not seen earlier. So there is an emergence of new diseases because of this climate change. Now coming to the indirect effect, that is on the feed resources. As on today, nearly 5% of the total agriculture, or we can say the cultivable land, is under the fodder production. And today we are facing a severe deficit in the dry fodder, green fodder, and concentrate, that is in tune of nearly 23%, 11%, and 29%. So if there is a greater incidence of the drought, it will again widen the gap between the availability of this food, that is fodder. And there is also change in the quality of this herbage or forage, and furthermore, we can say there is a change in the ratio between the grasses and legumes because of this climate change. And feed being an important factor, we can say, in the livestock, if it is affecting due to climate change indirectly, that will be affect to the livestock sector or livestock production. Then now we are coming to the climate change and what are the different adaptation and mitigation measures. The adaptation measures particularly, it involves the production and management system modification, breeding strategy, institutional and policy changes, even use of science and technology advances, and even the changing of farmers' perception and their adaptive capability. So in this adaptation measure, we will see that how we can bring the livestock production and management system, what kind of modification we can bring in that, then what should be the breeding strategy, and how we can improve the animal nutrition, and similarly there is also important, it is also important how we can build the capacity of the farmer to cope up or to adapt to this climate change. In the mitigation measure, mainly we will see that how these sources, that means how we can reduce these greenhouse gases through different strategies. And here, through research, they have suggested so many strategies, that is carbon sequestration, entry fermentation, manure management, fertilizer management, reproduction, reduction in livestock population, and also the lowering of livestock product consumption. I'm going very fastly. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Am I going very fastly?
No, sir.
Okay. Okay. So first we'll say that livestock production and management system is one of the adaptation measure. So first of all, the diversification is very much important. This diversification that particularly related to the, we should build the capacity, that means we should go for different type of farming system, different type of species, we can say. So that will increase the balance between agricultural production, environmental protection, and also it will help the carbon sequestration to offset these greenhouse gas emissions. Then changing the timing and locations of farm operations, that will reduce the soil erosion and also improve the moisture and nutrient retention. And finally, the mixed livestock farming system, that will improve food security by producing more food on less land using fewer resources. Mixed livestock farming system, particularly we are using to use the or utilize the whatever the resources that we have, we can use optimally in this mixed livestock farming system. Then further, if you see the breeding strategy, particularly we should understand the native breeds which are more resistant to this climate change. We can also see that we should upgrade the native breed with compatible high producing breeds to sustain the milk production. And also there is one option that we can change the breeding season. And nowadays we have the modern technology, breeding technology, particularly the sex semen, or we can say the sex selections, whereby we can reduce the population or this male population in dairy animals particularly, and thereby this reduction in population will help him to mitigate, to adapt this particular problem. And similar, this frozen storage of oocyte and embryo of high producing animals, in vitro fertilizer, and also the gene transfer. So coming to this animal nutrition, it's a big issue, or you can say it's a big adaptation measure, that if we maintain our animal with well balanced feed, then most of the problem we can come over. And these are some of the alternative fodder production system that has been suggested by various organizations to ensure this animal nutrition. So we'll see this one by one. That is intensive forage production system, hydroponic or azolla production system, then efficient use of crop residue, and this silage production, similarly this perennial and non-conventional fodder production system, and finally the fodder production in tank beds, farm ponds, horticulture and silviculture system. This intensive forest production system, the IGFRI Jhansi, they have particularly recommended this type of intensive forest production system to ensure the round-the-year supply of this fodder, where they have recommended we can integrate the Persimmon with the hybrid Napier in spring season, and also we can intercrop the other grasses with the cowpea during summer season. So finally, that nearly we have a 3 to 4 fodder crops at one land in one land, and alternately that can be harvested, and in this way the round-the-year green fodder supply can be ensured. The second one is hydroponics and azolla production. Nowadays, this is one of the popular technology being utilized in the urban and semi-urban dairy farmers particularly, where if we see the nutritive value of this azolla, then these are the we can say advantage, nearly 20 to 25% protein we can get from the azolla feeding, and similar wise the other we can say nutritive ingredient you can see. If there is one research regarding this use of azolla feeding, by feeding this azolla to the dairy animal, they have claimed that there is a 10 to 15% of milk increase, and nearly the fat percentage also increased by 3 to 5 points. Similarly, the solid not fat, and also there is a more animal body resistance and improve in body coat. So this is one we can say alternative production system. Then efficient Ministry of New and Renewable Energy report 2019, they have mentioned that in India we generally produce 500 million tons of crop residue, and out of this 500 million tons of crop residue, majority is being used for the domestic and industrial purpose as a fuel, but still nearly 140 million tons of this crop residue, out of that 9 ponds and horticulture and silviculture. Generally, it is a we are seeing that in summer season, the tank bunds that water is becoming that means the water becoming that's been dried in the summer season, and whatever the land that is being available in this tank bund that can be very well utilized for the fodder production. Similarly, this perennial non-conventional fodder production system, here there are so many that non-conventional or perennial grasses that can be used as a fodder production. Concern for all the policymakers and researchers, though there is a efforts towards the adaptation and mitigation of climate change, but the farmers level or field level, the farmers they are not or they are unable to understand the problem of this climate change, and because of that, whatever the efforts we are doing or the policymaker or researchers are doing to mitigate this climate change, without the involvement of this farmer and making widespread awareness regarding the climate change, this problem will not be solved. So it is very much necessary to involve the farmers in this climate change issue, and one has to see what kind of perception they have regarding different adaptation and mitigation measures. Then coming to the mitigation measures, the carbon sequestrations, that means this is a process of removing carbon from the atmosphere and depositing it into the reservoir. There are several methods of sequestration of carbons, just like forestation, that means afforestation, reforestation, or plantation, because the trees are a natural, we can say, sequester of the carbon. And similarly, we can use the wetland, we can use the ocean, and also there is a geological sequestration. As far as the livestock is concerned, we can improve the pasture management that can lead to the carbon sequestration by incorporating trees, improving plant species, legume interseeding, and also the introducing earthworm and fertilization. Then enteric fermentation, this is one major source of the greenhouse gases, particularly the methane, and that can be minimized by this particular measure: increase in green fodder, then providing high quality forage, increasing dietary fat, increasing protein content, similarly increasing concentrate, and so on. So these are the some of the measures that if we follow, then we can reduce the enteric fermentation, particularly the methane emission from the livestock. Then coming to the manure management, generally it is a well-known practice in India. The annual animal waste, particularly being stored in the open place. But if we that means store it properly, or if we apply it properly to the field, thereby also we can reduce the this methane emission, because nearly 25 million tons of methane being produced from this animal waste. And a simple method, by using this biogas plant, we can reduce nearly 50 to 75% of the methane emission from this manure. Coming to the fertilizer management, fertilizers particularly, we are using the fertilizer in the growing animal, this feed and fodder. And whenever we are using this fertilizer, we are increasing the concentration of nitrous oxide. So nowadays we have, yes sir.
Sorry to disturb.
Yes sir.
Please.
Yeah, sir, I'm concluding. I think I'm on last slide, last but one. Yeah, sir. So here we can see if we take care of the application of that means proper application of the fertilization to the animal feed fodder, we can reduce the emission of nitrous oxide. And finally, the reduction in livestock population. There are some countries where the reduction in the livestock population is the only way, thereby they can reduce their greenhouse gases. And it has been seen in Netherlands that once the milk production or animal productivity is increased, then we can reduce the livestock population. And finally, the lowering the livestock product consumption. Here also, if we see the scenario of Europe, North America, and Soviet Union, nearly 46% of the ruminant meat and milk energy is coming from this animal, and there are only 25% of the methane emission is there. But if we see the scenario of Asia, Africa, and Latin America, nearly 47 or equal amount of meat and milk energy we are utilizing, but large proportion of nearly 69% of the methane emission is coming through this Asia or Africa or Latin America. So these are some of the adaptation and mitigation strategy that can be utilized for the to meet out this climate change. Yeah, I was on the last slide, in fact. Yeah, I hope some little time I took, but it was just a minute. Yeah.
Participants, thanks for patient listening. You have any doubt, queries because of time constraint, you may mail to concerned speaker or to us. We'll definitely answer your queries. If time permits, meanwhile, if any queries, you may ask now. So before the session over, the time constraint. So we had a very good deliberation from Dr. Shahaji Fund. So it's a proud pleasure moment for me because he is my student, and in a very good manner he has highlighted the importance of the topic. Okay, on view of this World Environment Day, the climate change and its effect, threats to the livestock production. Definitely, the climate change has major threat for survival of various species, ecosystem, and sustainability of livestock production. So, how it is important we had exposure from the speaker. With this, I extend thanks to Dr. Shahaji Fund on behalf of Postgraduate Institute of Veterinary and Animal Sciences, Akola, and Maharashtra Animal and Fishery Sciences, Nagpur, University, Nagpur. Thank you. So any queries, any doubt, you may utilize the time which is allocated. So time is running fast and hardly we will have 2-3 minutes. Anybody having query, unmute.
Hello everyone. I am thankful to all the participants and guest speakers. So I will request all of you, if you have any query, you can ask directly to the guest speaker by email or the email which is provided in our brochure. I have another announcement for tomorrow's webinar, which is scheduled on 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. with this platform only, and using the link which is provided in a brochure. Tomorrow also we have a eminent speaker, Dr. Jiten Ramgaonkar, who is IFS and Deputy Conservator of Forest, Thane, Mumbai, and he will be delivering on a topic of role of veterinarian in wildlife conservation. The tomorrow's topic is also very much enchanting. So I would like to request you to kindly join for tomorrow's session.
I'm concluding this, and really thanks for giving me this opportunity. Particularly, it happens that since last almost 4.5 years, I am involved in this human resource development and capacity training, particularly of the even senior and middle level officers. But this is a kind of virtual thing where we can see that can see you, but the interaction is not that much effective what is supposed to be in one-to-one, that means type of interaction. So this is a kind of experience. Earlier we have conducted the sessions through Skype, through video conferencing, but this is a new kind of tools where we can see the participants, but interaction, again, there is a limitation on interaction. So hope so at least to some extent we have overcome the restriction bound by this COVID-19, and again in future also we will be in touch. If anything else regarding, definitely we'll look forward to collaborate with you, sir. So thank you, Dr. Kuldeep and Dr. Bankar. Really, you have taken efforts to do that. Anand Ratna Farki, I'm seeing you. Kuldeep, you are there?
Yes. I'm there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So thanks, dear, for making this environmental day memorable.
Yes.
And thank you, Iyer sir, for really giving this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Welcome, Doctor, and thanks to all. Okay, with this we will conclude.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, sir.